Hi guys, this is a video that you guys have requested, how to play guitar like the Strokes. Welcome to Dave's Guitar Club. Love music, learn music and make music. Now the Strokes sound and style has changed over the years, so today I'm going to be focusing on the first album. At the end I'm going to run down my 3 favourite things that I've learned. I want to start with structure. The structure of the songs in this album is actually quite straightforward, and often the songs only have a few parts. Now, when you have really cool parts in your songs, like let's say the guitar part in the title track, if you have cool guitar parts like that, then you don't really need to add surplus parts to your songs. I mean, if you do have lots of cool ideas, that's great, but why not use the best and the most fitting parts and then use the other ideas that you have to write more songs and not risk making your songs too busy? So I want to go from an intro and change progression into a verse section. This verse section that I've gone into will then lead into a chorus with a different progression, and then my idea is just to repeat everything but play around with the instrumentation to keep the arrangement from getting too monotonous. Get all of the resources that accompany this lesson on my Patreon page from the link below. Your support is what makes these videos possible. So now let's get putting some of these ideas together to create the track. Okay, so let's start with coming up with an intro section. So I've noticed that the 1 to 4 chord change features quite a lot in this album, so I'm going to use this 1 to 4 change as my main intro section. So the 1 chord is going to be a C chord and the 4 chord an F chord, and this is going to repeat a few times. And to bring us out of the intro, I like the sound of going to a G chord, which is going to pull the progression into the verse section. Now, for this first guitar, I want the chords to be played quite low up the neck, just using standard bar chords. So this 3rd fret 5th string root C chord and the 1st fret 6th string root F chord. Rhythmically, in songs like The Modern Age, the rhythm guitar plays on the offbeats throughout the verses. So I want to take this idea and use it in my intro. So what I mean by the offbeats is if you're counting in 8th notes, or thinking 8th notes as in the count is going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Basically, I want to be playing the guitar on the offbeats, which is the and count. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So just like that, it adds kind of a nice bounce, a nice rhythm to this intro section. The second guitar, I'm going to play constant 8th notes. Now this type of rhythm keeps the song driving forward and adds some power, which the Strokes like to use in their sound as well. But for the second guitar in this intro, I've decided to use one of my favourite things that the Strokes do. So a bit of theory here. So the C chord contains the notes C, E and G, and the F chord contains the notes F, A and C. So these 2 chords both have the C note in common. This means that this C note will work great over both of these chords. So I'm going to have the second guitar just playing an octave of the C note throughout both of these chord changes. The octave I'm going to have quite high up on the neck, so I'm going to play the A string at the 15th fret at the same time as the G string at the 17th fret. And make sure as you're strumming this, you're muting the other strings. So. And I will add as well, when the chord changes to a G at the end of the intro, I'm going to change the octave to a G as well. For the verse, I'm going to use a simple 1-4-5 progression, which is just going to be C, F, and G. 1-4-5 progressions do also feature quite heavily in this album, so it's a good chord progression to get familiar with. Now, in the middle of this verse, I'm going to go from an F chord to a G chord 2 times as well, and then go back to repeating the 1-4-5 progression. I've added this in just to break up the verse slightly and to add a little bit of variety. But the fun that I want to have with this verse section is with the second guitar part, which has a lot more of what Albert Hammond Jr. will be doing throughout a chord progression. So the first step I want us to take here is to take the basic chord progression and figure out how to play the chords higher up. So I'm going to be playing the chords higher than what Nick Valenci would be playing. So if one guitar is playing high, the other guitar plays low. Now this isn't always the case with the Strokes, but this does help to add some separation between the guitars. So to experiment with this and playing higher chords, if you don't know about triads, you can start with just using the 5th string and 6th string root bar chord shapes. But instead of playing the full bar chords, you can take small parts of these bigger shapes to make new chord shapes that just sound awesome. So for example, I'm going to take this C chord here at the 8th fret using a 6th string root bar chord, so standard big bar chord at the 8th fret. And I'm just going to use the bottom 3 notes of this shape, and this is going to give me a little chord shape like this, which is going to be a C chord because I've taken it from this big C chord shape. I could use any shape out of this big chord shape, so I could take these 3, or these 3, or these 3. But I've chosen to use these 3, this little shape using the high 3 strings. So I think it sounds pretty cool. I'm going to do the same thing for the F chord. So if I take this 5th string root F chord shape like this, and I'm just going to do the same thing again and take the 3 highest notes. So this little shape I've got now here, I could take the middle 3 sets of strings or these 3 sets of strings and make any chord shapes out of those, but I like the sound of this bottom one. And the same thing with the G chord, so using the exact same chord shape, 5th string root from the G position though at the 10th fret, I'm just going to take the bottom 3 strings on that as well. Because these new shapes were created from the bar chords, they are still technically the same types of chords. So this is still a C chord, this is still an F chord, and this is still a G chord. So now I have 3 chords that are sounding higher than the first guitar. And the next step, I'm going to find a simple melody that fits around these shapes on the high strings, and then use these notes to add extensions to the chords, which will add some movement to them, just like playing a riff. You can use your knowledge of scales to find these melodies, but I would just recommend using your ears and find the notes that you like the sound of. So I found that these notes work really well. Just these 3 notes. So I've found a little pattern that I like already, and I think it sounds great. But I also want to add during the verses, just to add a little touch of variety, I'm also going to add this little arpeggio pattern. So on the first chord, rather than strumming this little chord shape, I'm just going to pick the notes down individually. And this is the pattern that I've come up with. This will now lead into a chorus. I've taken inspiration from songs like Someday, where they also like to throw in the 6th chord into the chords they've already used. So for my song in this key means that I'm going to add the A minor chord to the chords I already have. So the chorus progression that I think will work really well for what I'm doing is going to be a 4 chord, which is F, the 5 chord, which is G, then A minor, the 6th chord, and then I'm going to go back to the 5 chord, which is G again. And I'm just going to repeat this a couple of times. The first guitar is just going to be playing straight quarter notes, and I'm still going to be playing the chords lower on the neck. Guitar 2, I also like using a similar idea to what I used in the verse, where I'm just going to play 3 note shapes of the high on the high strings, taken from the big bar chord shapes, and I'm just going to add a bit of movement to these chord shapes by adding a note on the high E string. That's going to work just to add some movement between these chords as well. To end the chorus, the Strokes will often stay on a single chord for a while. This can add some tension which will resolve when the parts change to the next section. So they do this on songs like Someday, in which they hold on an E major chord at the end of the chorus section, and this then leads back to the start. So I'm going to use this idea and stay on the G chord and have both guitars just playing this big G chord, just playing the exact same thing. Both guitars haven't played the same thing yet in my arrangement. So this is going to add a bit of a crescendo to end the chorus section. This is going to lead back into the intro section. The intro section is going to be the same as before. Then this is going to go back into a verse. This verse I'm going to make it half the length as before. And this time I'm just not going to play the guitars at all. I'm just going to leave them out and just have it as bass and drums. When the guitars come back in on the next chorus, this is going to make the chorus sound more powerful. The instrumentation change adds some slight variation to the track so that it's not just the same all the way through. And I could make the chorus twice as long, but I've decided to keep the chorus the same length as before. And then the song's going to finish at the end of this chorus just by playing that G chord, just repeating the G chord, staying on that again after the chorus. And that is basically my track. This should sound like quite a solid arrangement in the style of the Strokes. And remember that they will have a vocal track as well. Now, I'm not going to attempt to write lyrics and sing on this, as I just don't have the skill that Julian Casablancas has. But if you, or if anyone out there wants to add a vocal part to this track, then feel free to do so and send it to me. I'd love to hear it. You can get a copy of the track from the link in the description box below. And I've linked to a video of me playing the full track in the top corner of this video as well. Now I'm going to run down my 3 favourite things that I have learned that will help you to add some of the Strokes sound to your playing. So the first thing is the octave. So I want you to find common tones within the chord progression and stay on the same octave between these chords. This adds a great effect to the chord changes and just sounds awesome. If you want to experiment with this even more, you should be able to make some cool octave parts like the guitar part in the modern age. Number 2 is finding higher voicings of the chords and adding some melody notes to add extensions on top of these chord shapes. So that's the kind of thing where I was saying about taking the big bar chords that you might already know and just making little chord shapes out of them. And the third thing is staying on the final chord at the end of your chorus and staying on it for a little while before going into the next section. And this is going to add a cool build-up of tension before resolving into another section. You can get all of the resources and extra stuff I couldn't include in this video by supporting me on Patreon. Your support helps to keep making these videos possible, so check out my link to the Patreon page from the description box below and see what other perks you can get as a supporter of this channel as well. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Leave comments of who else you want to see covered in this series, and I will see you in the next one.